Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. It is pre-match build-up showtime with Liverpool facing the big one on Sunday afternoon. It is, of course, Manchester United at Anfield, a fixture that has provided us with joy and misery in equal measure over recent years. I think it is fair to say that Liverpool have had something of a mental block against Manchester United. Certainly when you look back at the past decade, and especially the games where we have been on paper the better side than them, the results that you'd expect to come out of those games, given the respective qualities of the teams, just haven't materialised. And by and large, that is because Liverpool just seem to have, like I said, this mental block that seems to be something in the way that stops us from playing to the best of our abilities, that forces us down to their level, essentially. That's what seems to happen whenever we play United. It ends up being an even game where all the evidence suggests that it should be otherwise, that Liverpool should be dominating the ball, dominating the chances, putting the ball in the net and coming away with all 3 points. Generally, that hasn't been the case, and it's something that Jurgen Klopp has actually addressed in his press conference going into this game, which I thought was very interesting. He talked about how we need to approach the game differently. He talked about previous games against Manchester United, the previous two obviously being draws at Old Trafford against Solskjaer's United, a team that we know we are streets ahead of, a team we know we should be battering on paper, and yet when it comes down to the games, that just hasn't happened. Some of that, I think, is also due to an Old Trafford effect that we should hopefully avoid, given the games that at Anfield this weekend. I think we have an even bigger block when it comes to playing there. But even at Anfield, it almost seems like the players get too wrapped up in the occasion in a way that they don't in games, for example, against a team like Everton. Against Everton, we very much play our normal game. Against Manchester United, the players play it like it's the biggest game of their lives and they're not ready for it, which is strange because they're so mentally strong as well. We've seen them win finals now. We've seen them come back from the brink in Champions League matches. We've seen them dominate teams that are supposedly better than them on paper. Looking back to Champions League games against Man City and stuff like that, they've overcome every single mental hurdle that's been put in front of them, except for this one. And I think hopefully this Sunday is where we see that start to change. We have, of course, got one shining light we can look back on, which is the game at Anfield against them last season, where Xherdan Shaqiri's late deflected double gave us all 3 points. It's an interesting game to look at, that one, because if you take the deflected double out of it, it's kind of the same old story. Liverpool were locked at 1-1 up until around about the 70th minute, despite having dominated the ball, had way more shots than Man United. They only had really one chance, and that was that kind of fluky Lingard goal where he receives the ball, Alisson parries it out and he's just left unmarked in the box for some random reason, and he gets that goal that equalised for Man United. And even that game looked like same old, same old. And I think this game is a real chance for Liverpool to show that the new normal is just going to be showing how much better we are than Manchester United without any regard for the occasion or the mental blocks that might come along. What I really want to see here is not just a Liverpool win. I want to see a composed performance. I want to see a Liverpool that dominate Manchester United. And I think part of that will be down to treating this like any other game. You know, I'm always a little bit iffy on whether we should do this because I think about how the opposition approach it. When I think about the derby, I think about how it's massive for Everton. They know that it's as much about winning over their fans as it is about putting in a decent performance. So they are going to fly into tackles. They are going to press like mad. It's the same with Man United in the position they're in now. For them, it's as much about showing up to Anfield and putting in a fight, about showing that they can go toe-to-toe for Liverpool. And if they end up losing off the back of that, then at least they can go to their fans and say, well, look, we're not significantly worse than Liverpool. The worst case scenario for them is that they absolutely roll over, and as a result, they'll probably fly into this one. They'll be so revved up. We know how Solskjaer feels about Liverpool as well. I think he hates us more than Manchester City, more than Leeds or any rival that Man United have picked up along the way. We're the ones that really get his back up. We've seen that in interviews in the past. We've seen him, you know, he's trying to play mind games in his press conferences leading into this game, and I'll come onto that a little bit later on the video. But they will be fired up, and as a result, I'm thinking, should we be fired up? Should we be flying into this, or should we just remain composed? The game that comes into my head when I think about this is the derby from earlier on in the season at Anfield, the 5-2, where Liverpool didn't just fly into it. Liverpool just kind of played their own game. We didn't overdo it. We didn't over-egg it. We didn't try and play it like a derby. We just sized up the opponent, worked out a way around them, established that they had weaknesses that we could exploit because we're way better than them, exploited those weaknesses, and came away having scored 5 goals, taking away all 3 points, and absolutely humiliating your rivals. I think that's the avenue Liverpool need to go down for this match, because when you think about the intensity of this match, and it is going to be intense, you know, like I said, I think Man U are just going to fly into everything to try and win the favour of their fans as much as they want to actually win the game. But the way Liverpool play doesn't necessitate an extra 10% really. We don't really need that. What we need to do is play our usual game, because our usual game, as Jurgen Klopp and Pep Linders and everyone says, our identity is intensity. We don't need to take a step up. We just need to keep going as we normally are. That's what works against every other team in the Premier League every single week, including teams as good as Man City and as naff as Norwich. They have all fallen to Liverpool's might in terms of the way we play our usual game. The only team that hasn't is Manchester United, and that's because we don't play our usual game against them, because we go into our shells, because we get it into our heads that it's some sort of massive occasion, than a bigger obstacle than any we're ever going to negotiate. The most important thing is the players just know what the plan is, that Jurgen Klopp has worked out, tactics to get around Manchester United's defence and stop their attack, and they implement those tactics to the best of their ability, and I think there is no doubt that Liverpool should, fingers crossed, come away with all 3 points on Sunday evening. So team news going into the game, and there is plenty of it. They are coming like buses at the moment. All of Liverpool's injured players are just flying back into training at once. You've got Fabinho, Matip and Shaqiri, who will all be available for this game. I think Shaqiri might have been available for the Spurs game as well. I'm not entirely sure. He'd only just come back from injury around that time anyway, but he should be fully fit for this one. Fabinho and Matip have completed full, intense first-team training now, so Jurgen Klopp has said that they will be in the squad at least for this game. You know, whether or not they come back into the side remains to be seen, and that is something else that I'll come on to a little bit later. But those three are all ready and waiting to play in this game. Dejan Lovren took part in a tailored session rather than getting involved with the more intense full first-team training, so it's looking like he's just ever so slightly further off. I think with Dejan Lovren's injury history, the club just aren't putting any timescale on it whatsoever, but I certainly wouldn't back him to play this game, and probably not the one against Wolves on Thursday night either, so he's not going to be available. Milner and Keita also need another week there or thereabouts. This was all confirmed by David Maddock on Twitter and kind of backed up by Jurgen Klopp in his press conference today, so they're not going to be available for this, or probably the Wolves game either. But the big boosters, of course, the potential returns of Fabinho and Matip, and the availability of Shaqiri to add in some extra attacking depth. And of course, with Origi and Minamino also available, Liverpool now have what seems to be an embarrassment of riches in terms of options going forward, which is absolutely fantastic. So as for how I think we're actually going to line up, I think it is, of course, going to be Alisson Becker. How fantastic would it be to see him pick up a clean sheet in this game? He's only got one clean sheet so far against United, and that was in that rather disappointing 0-0 draw against them at Old Trafford last season. He's, you know, I think it'd be nice to see a really big performance from him. Of course, in that Old Trafford draw, he makes that splendid save from Jesse Lingard. But if this is going to be a tight game, and as much as I've been saying that Liverpool, you know, are better than Man United, and on paper we should be thrashing them, and if we do our job properly, then we probably will thrash them, there's every chance it's a tight game. United can make it a tight game, and we can make it like that for ourselves as well if we don't play the game to the best of our ability. And we've seen, you know, in the Tottenham game last weekend as well, that when we've got Alisson Becker to call upon, and when we need him to come up trumps, by and large, he does. So hopefully we see another fantastic performance from him this weekend, although in an ideal world, he doesn't get called into action at all and doesn't even need to make a save. And given how bad Man United are at the moment, that is also a strong possibility. So in front of him, I think Virgil van Dijk undoubtedly stays in the side. And I think Joe Gomez just has to keep the place alongside him. I know Matip's come back, and Matip was fantastic. He was part of the side that went all the way to the European Cup final and then won it. He was also brilliant at the start of the season until his injury back in October. But Gomez has just been so good since he stepped in, and I think it's a difficult situation with the centre-backs, because every time one of them comes in, they perform to the best of their ability, and it's almost impossible, barring injury, for the other guys to get back in, and it feels harsh on Matip. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And in the same way that Gomez couldn't get back into the side when Matip was playing well, it's only fair to keep Gomez in the side. Now he is performing admirably, because him and Virgil van Dijk have been absolute rocks at the back at the moment, and Liverpool have not conceded a goal since the semi-final of the Club World Cup against Monterrey. It has been that long since these boys have let one into the back of their own net, so they have to keep their place. Gomez and Virgil as the centre-backs. I think you have to go Robertson and Alexander-Arnold as your full-backs as well. You know, with a full 8 days rest between this game and the Spurs game last weekend, there's no real need for rotation. Of course, we've got the Wolves game coming up in the week, and there's got to be some sort of consideration about that, but we've got the 4-day gap for that, and then of course it's FA Cup weekend after that, where I presume all the first teamers who play these games are going to be rested. They'll be perfectly fine. It'll be the kids playing those games, so we don't need to worry about rotation at all. So I think Robertson and Alexander-Arnold will keep their places. Ahead of them, I don't think Fabinho starts this game. I just think, you know, we have played very well without him. I know he's fantastic, probably the best defensive midfielder in the world, But at the moment, Henderson has more than filled his boots. And again, it's that kind of case of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And also it's a case of, don't rock the boat, don't take John Henderson outside and throw in a Fabinho who hasn't played any football for the last month and a half, there or thereabouts. If this was Brighton or Norwich or anyone naff like Everton, then I'd be absolutely fine with Fabinho coming back in, because I think the intensity of the game wouldn't be too difficult for him to match, despite coming back from an injury and slightly lacking match sharpness, as I imagine he will do. I think it'd be great if we could see him come on as a substitute at some point in the game, if either for game time or if we're trying to close the game out as that kind of substitute that can just calm everything down. But I think from the start, like I said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And at the moment, the midfield is performing admirably, and Jordan Henderson in the number 6 defensive midfield role has been absolutely central to that. So I think he has to keep his place. He is in pretty much the form of his Liverpool career at the moment. So I think he plays in the middle of the park. I think either side of him, Gini Wijnaldum has to come back into the side. And then this was a really tough one, because I've seen some shouts of people saying that maybe we should go with 4-2-3-1. Liverpool have struggled against Man United in the past when we've used the front three. And you look back to that Shaqiri substitution, there was a bit of a change of formation of it there. Shaqiri comes on as an extra attacker rather than replacing anyone. It gives Liverpool that extra body going forward, that extra bit of quality in the final third in terms of finishing, and it reaped massive rewards, with Liverpool obviously coming away with those 2 Shaqiri goals that secured all 3 points. So there's maybe a shout that we do a similar kind of thing. Also, like I said, the front three has kind of struggled at times against Man United, and Salah hasn't always been able to get into the game from the right-hand side. I think with Ashley Young now having confirmed his transfer to Inter Milan, that's a little bit of a boost for Liverpool, because he always had a very, very good game against Mo Salah. Always very, very physical, which for some reason it seems you're just allowed to do against Mo Salah. God knows why, but strangling him with impunity in the penalty box just seems par for the course, and referees don't seem to mind anymore. But that was Ashley Young's kind of bag there, and I think many people were thinking that if he was going to play, it would make sense to move Salah to the centre, where he can use his movement and his low centre of gravity and his dribbling ability to get round United's, if we're being honest, slightly slow centre-backs like Lindelof and like Harry Maguire and stuff like that. But I think personally, you got to win the midfield battle first, and I just think with Shaqiri on the pitch, that's essentially taking a body out of that. He's great and he's got the energy and he's got the running, but I don't think he's got the game management and the tactical awareness to play in the centre of the park. He will run after the ball, he will chase it, he will try and press, but he won't do the same job that a midfield three of trusted Jurgen Klopp players would do, and that is why I think Adam Lallana is going to start in the centre of the park in this game. I know that a month ago I would be kicking my own head in for saying that, and of course if you look back to the previous game against United at Old Trafford, the groans that went up wherever you were watching the game when he gets brought on with about 15 minutes to go and Liverpool are chasing a goal to salvage at least a point at the home of their arch rivals. No one thought that Adam Lallana was going to go on the resurgence that he's gone on. And when I'm talking about the midfield battle, when I'm talking about winning the game in the centre of the park, Adam Lallana has been central to that over the last few games. He just does his job impeccably, winning the ball, keeping the ball, moving the ball on, pressing, harrying, closing down spaces, picking out the right pass. He does everything right. And when he gets a little bit too far forward, sometimes it breaks down, and that's maybe where the idea of playing 4-2-3-1 with Shaqiri comes in, because if Liverpool do dominate the ball as much as we kind of expect us to, given how much better we are than Manchester United, then you think maybe an extra attacking player with a bit more quality in the final third than Adam Lallana has shown in the last few games would be understandable. But I think from the start, while he's still trying to suss out the game, start safe, start where and win the game in the centre of the park. And if we need to bring on reinforcements up front, then we can do what we did last season. We can bring on the firing squad. We can bring on Shaqiri, Origi, Minamino as well. There are plenty of options there if things start to go wrong. And if there's one thing we've seen about this Liverpool side, they love a late winner. And if there's one thing we Liverpool fans would love more than anything, it's a late winner against Manchester United. So I don't have any qualms whatsoever with Liverpool playing a midfield three that includes Adam Lallana, at least for the first hour of the game. And then we see where we are at that point. And if we have to make changes, then so be it. But I think Adam Lallana should be starting, given recent form and the nature of the opposition and the nature of the match as well. And then I think in front of that three, I doubt there's going to be any surprises whatsoever. I think Mo Salah has to play, of course, was injured in the game at Old Trafford. And when he was asked about why Liverpool didn't win that game in an interview the other day, he said, because I was injured and wasn't playing, which is a great mentality for a player to have. You can talk about, appreciating the team and relying on your teammates to get the job done. But Mo Salah is a goal scorer. Mo Salah is a striker by any name other than the fact that he doesn't normally actually play down the middle of the park like most strikers do. He needs to be cocky. He needs to believe in himself. He needs to be self-obsessed to the point where he thinks he is the man to drag Liverpool through when they need it. and he wasn't there for us last time, and I beg that he is not injured at the last minute for this one because we need him, and I think he will definitely start this game alongside his usual partners in crime, Roberto Firmino and Sadio Mane. So taking a little look at Manchester United then, Solskjaer had his press conference before Jurgen Klopp. It was at like 10 a.m. for some reason. God knows why, but that was when he did it. And he had a fair few things to say as well. He talked quite a lot about Marcus Rashford, who is, of course, the man on everyone's lips when you talk about Manchester United at the moment. He's been struggling with injury. He was brought on in the FA Cup game against Wolves, even though Solskjaer said he didn't really want to play him because of the injury problems he was having at the moment. He then comes on, sets up the goal, gets Man United through, but then goes off injured about, I think, 16 minutes to be precise. After he comes on in the 64th minute. I think he went off in the 80th. So he really didn't last that long. And I think Solskjaer is actually regretting bringing him on. And in his press conference, he was saying that he's actually expecting to play without Marcus Rashford, that he thinks he won't have him available, which is kind of understandable because while there have been conflicting reports in the Daily Mirror that have said Marcus Rashford is willing to play through the pain barrier, that he will play this weekend and he'll take pain-killing injections if that's what it takes for him to actually get through the 90 minutes. And that is kind of believable because this is a massive game for them. This is actually bigger for them than it is for us as Liverpool fans. We can look back to 5 or 10 years ago when we were fighting for nothing. We had no chance of getting any trophies. This was the big one. This was the one thing you could hang your hat on at the end of the season and say, well, we didn't come away with any shiny things, but we had that game against Man United. We beat Man United. The roles have reversed now. They are hell-bent on at least trying to stall our title challenge. I think no one's really getting the idea into their heads that there's any stopping Liverpool at the moment. I think even Man United fans are having to come around to the idea that Liverpool are heading towards a procession for this Premier League title. And you can cuss me out all you want and you can have a go, but I think it's almost inevitable at this stage. When you look at the gulf in class between how we played this season and everyone else, and the gulf in points in the Premier League table, it's hard to see past it. And I think Man U will be desperate to get a result out of this game, and Marcus Rashford will probably be willing to play this game, even if it means he misses the next 3 or 4 matches. That's how much it means to them. And I think the only thing that would stop him playing is the fact that he tried to play through the pain barrier against Wolves just a few days ago, and it didn't work. It backfired. And I think Solskjaer may actually have to pull rank here and say, you know what? I'm worried about your long-term fitness. I don't want you to aggravate this any further. I think it's a back injury that he's got. And we'll just pull rank and say you're not starting. I don't care about pain-killing injections, playing through the barrier, anything like that, because he's so important for them at the moment. They cannot afford to lose him for any stretch of time, especially when you consider FA Cup matches coming up. That's their only shot left at silverware. So, we're essentially ruling out the League Cup, aren't they, given the first leg result against Manchester City? So they've got to throw everything into that, and if they don't have Rashford available, then that is a hell of a blow. So I think it kind of makes sense that he probably won't start this weekend. I think he'll be on the bench. I think it's inevitable that they'll try and force him in somewhere because of that. Like I said, the nature of the game, it's so important. And if it is in the balance, so they're only 1-0 down with half an hour, 20 minutes to go, then Solskjaer will probably just not be able to resist. I think he will roll the dice. He'll throw Marcus Rashford on. So I don't think he'll be completely out the squad. But given what's happened over the last week or so, I doubt he's going to start the match. So Marcus Rashford probably won't play, but what about all the other guys who will? I think it's fair to say we have a decent idea of how Manchester United are going to set up for this game. Solskjaer has tried to turn them into a counter-attacking side, kind of in the mould of the Fergie teams. It's worked against the big teams. It hasn't worked so much against the smaller teams because they're just rubbish when it comes to playing in possession, if we're being perfectly honest. The players they have got are not built for that kind of football. But the personnel they've got, weirdly, are actually built for playing under the cosh. I know they've got rid of Mourinho, and Solskjaer was meant to play this free-flowing Manchester United identity kind of football. But they've pretty much reverted to type. They are very, very defensive in these big matches. You look back to the games against Spurs at Old Trafford, and of course Manchester City away as well, where they took points off of our rivals in the title race, winning 2-1 at the Etihad. The performance they put in that game is exactly what I'm expecting this weekend, or at least that's what I'm expecting them to try. The issue with Man United is, will it work? No one really knows what team is going to show up. If the team that played at the Etihad shows up, and I think that's more likely than not, because as I said, this game means so much to them now under the circumstances, then it's going to be really, really difficult for Liverpool to break them down, and Jurgen Klopp has got to throw the tactical book at them. The good thing is, I'd back him to do that. I think we've had enough difficult games against Manchester United. The list of don'ts is so long that we should finally be able to start compiling a list of do's, a list of things that will break Manchester United down, because we've tried so much We've crossed so many things out in terms of how the hell you get past their defence, no matter who their manager is, that I think Jurgen Klopp and his team will hopefully have finally hit upon the secret formula to get past Manchester United. And like I said, some of it is mental, some of it is tactical as well. When they set up well, when they set up defensively, you look at players like Harry Maguire, he is at his best when he doesn't have to leave his penalty box. Wan-Bissaka is at his best when he doesn't need to leave his own half of the pitch. You think about how they're going to play and how we're going to play this weekend at Anfield as well, with the gulfing class between the teams. That's probably going to be how they play it. Wan-Bissaka's probably not going to get forward. Harry Maguire's probably not going to move further than 20 yards away from the goal line. So Liverpool have got to find a way around that. And the thing is, because we dealt with this problem before, I'd back us to find... Well, we've come up against this problem before. I'd back us to finally deal with it, get over the hump, and get that result against Manchester United. And of course, there's always that nagging doubt in the back of their mind. Against these, there always is, because losing to them would be so sickening. It always is. And part of me just thinks it will be so typical. You know, my back still gets up at that draw against them earlier on in the season. The only time Liverpool have dropped points, I would have taken it against anyone. I would have rather it was against anyone else but them at Old Trafford. And it would be so typical on this run where we're starting to talk about Liverpool potentially finishing the season as invincibles, and also looking at this Anfield unbeaten run, which today ticked over to 1,000 days without a loss at Anfield in the league. It would be so typical for Man U to throw all that in the bin. As soon as I consider them winning, I can see their players diving into the away end at Anfield Road, 1-0 in the 89th minute or something ridiculous like that, and it drives me absolutely mad. That doubt is always there, and I'm sure it's been there in the past for the players as well. What's important is that we as fans, and them as players, and Jurgen Klopp and his team as staff, ignore all that, block all that out, approach this game professionally, approach it as we would any other game against a side that plays the way Manchester United play, and I'd back us to take away all 3 points. And not only that, I'd back us to absolutely play them off the park as well. So I think it's going to be a Liverpool win. My heart says Liverpool win. My head is still saying Liverpool win. Both of them are still a little bit scared of the alternatives, but I reckon we've got this one in the bag. Let me know what you think's going to happen down in the comments below. Apart from that, that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very much for watching. As always, if you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. Hit the like button down there. Hit that subscribe button there if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days. Don't forget to follow at LSU Focus TV on Twitter, and I'll be back on Sunday evening after we've hopefully smashed the Manx to reach 64 points in the Premier League. Until then, bye for now.